Hey there, welcome into Roosters. It's the Lettermen Lounge. It's Lettermen Live. It's Monday. It's time for the game. It's Rivalry Week. We're going to talk about what happened with an absolute beatdown on Saturday. Ohio State thrashing, beating down Michigan State to show their scary potential. It was 49-0 at halftime. They finished 56-7. Ohio State could have named whatever score they wanted. We're going to talk about that and get ready for Saturday in the Big House. That's Justin Zwick, Nicole Cox, Bobby Carpenter, and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward, and I was right about the beatdown on Saturday. Bob, my score predictions are rolling again, aren't they?
They really are. I mean, and I was a little worried for a while because I thought you were drunk on life, and you're predicting these 40 and 50-point wins each and every week. But you know what? The last
Keep
couple
doing
weeks,
it. It's going to come true sooner or later.
Sometimes I'm just actually drunk.
Here's the problem. Like when you do that against teams that aren't ranked, and then it doesn't come true, and then you do it against teams that are ranked, and it does come true. Like I feel like we're working in reverse right now. So hopefully this week against the team up north, that'll be fantastic. But I thought there was a chance for Ohio State. I think my score was 49.
You had a blowout this week.
49-20. And I was like, okay, it could be 28-7 at halftime. I didn't anticipate the ability to score 7 touchdowns at halftime.
Yeah.
Because I thought they would be able to at least put together, like they had won the 13 play, the second drive. I thought they'd be able to put at least a couple of those things together. Whether or not you're getting points is one thing, but at least chew some clock.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest issue. Like, the only way to score 49 points is to have 7 possessions in the first half.
Like, maybe you're letting the other team go score a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there was like 3 or 4 3-and-outs. They had the fumble. I mean, they really only had one drive of substance. And so as much as we're going to sit here and talk about how great the offense was, which I think was tremendous, we've harped on this defense all year long. And we knew their defensive backfield wasn't good. We thought some of that would happen, but they do coming in. I think he's maybe 4th now behind Matt Corral, depending on where you're looking. Kenneth Walker was 3rd in the Heisman Trophy vote, odds coming in, and it wasn't all that far away from CJ and Young at the top.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden, chasm. 6 rushes, 25 yards. He kind of taps out. I'm not sure exactly what happens there. Maybe they're saving him, and I don't blame it. But that was an offense that has been good. They moved the football in Michigan. I know that they were down and came back, but if we're thinking Michigan's defense is supposed to be all that good, and granted they had Jalen Naylor as well then, but I don't know if that would have mattered really much at all based upon what I saw.
I think they've just been fired up the last couple of weeks because they heard Nicole's score prediction for Purdue, and now they're
24-12.
I mean, Nicole, this has been what you've talked about all along. This team that's just growing up, and now they're playing their best when it matters the most.
They are, and I look at everyone. I remember Spencer made a comment back in after the second game, maybe the first away game, and he said that CJ Stroud had the potential to be a Justin Fields, and everybody, I think it was Berm, was like, oh, wait a second here.
Whoa,
now.
Let's jump on Berm early today.
And Berm, you know how much I love you.
And when this show turned into
We're attacking.
we need to change the seating arrangement because this
I like this one.
is not working for me anymore. I never once said a negative word about CJ Stroud.
No, it wasn't
at
negative.
all.
Just Spencer.
It was just Spencer.
Spencer, slide on in.
No.
You get your credit for this.
Spencer,
Man.
I never rebutted him.
And everybody was commenting,
Find the
and they
tape.
were just looking, thinking it was ridiculous for Spencer to say that. And now look at CJ. Look at how
Preach.
he's really fallen into his own. He's more confident, and it takes experience to get there. So,
If you keep
the
talking
guys look
about
great.
Spencer, though, that hat's just going to pop off of his head. There's no way that it can stay on.
It's a big compliment, Spencer.
Big.
But it's also a
Bigly.
big compliment for CJ Stroud.
Yes, very much. The guys have worked very hard. You can see their confidence and just learning to work together and really get that rhythm. And now we're going to throw a wrench into it with the guys, getting ready to graduate, some of the older guys that do, and you were talking about how is CJ this great because he has Garrett Wilson and Olave and all of them? And yes, that's it. It's a team effort. So, but they will bring somebody else in that will help make that position great too. So,
Show me a great quarterback who doesn't have great
Exactly.
receivers.
It's so stupid.
the mental
I can't
gymnastics.
I
stand it.
absolutely hate that argument, which for some reason appears to be gaining traction, that Bryce Young is doing it with less talent.
So dumb.
If Alabama is that much less talented than Ohio State, why are you saying that they're the number 2 team in the country?
Don't say conflicting
these
things.
can't both be true.
The mental gymnastics is pretty remarkable. Because
I've never heard this argument before. Like Joe Burrow wasn't throwing to 3 NFL wide receivers, an NFL running back.
First round pick NFL receivers and a second round running back.
I have a little bit of a tip for you. if it's a historic offense, the same way Alabama was last year and LSU was 2 years ago, there's more than one good player on it.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's ridiculous.
That's
I mean,
little.
Devontae Smith wouldn't have won the Heisman.
Mac Jones finished third. Was in.
Well, that's what they said about Mac going into the NFL last year. Well, he had so many weapons. Well, he's going to have a lot of weapons around him in the
now
NFL
he's
too.
in the NFL.
You know, I mean, everybody's good up
He
there.
actually has fewer weapons with.
But he's still doing pretty good. You know, I mean, everybody wants to play that role. It's stupid to me. As a quarterback, you go as your team goes, and we talk about that all the time. And it went on Saturday, but I to bring it back to the game.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I think it could have gone one of two ways, and I think we need to talk about the defense. Bobby brought it up. Because, you're sitting at the game saying, all right, we're going to throw for a lot of yards. And I think I called for 1,000 last week, which my buddies on our text was like, well, you're a quarter of the way there through the first quarter. Halftime, you're halfway there,
on pace for it.
Yeah, so we were tracking it. But so you knew that was going to happen, but you just weren't sure what our defense was going to be able to do. They have a Heisman candidate, running back. They have a great running game and a quarterback that can move the ball down the field. So for them to show up the way they did, and they gave up the 13-play drive in the first quarter, but other than that, man, they were outstanding, and that's what we need in late in November in these big games. So that defense, huge congrats to them. And as a QB, you love when you're getting the ball back. You're getting a chance to score 7 times in the first half.
Yeah, but
that's a lot of opportunity.
Was a tie.
Yeah.
7 points.
Here he
7
is.
points in the second half.
Yeah.
Come on.
And
that's why he's so worried for Saturday.
And we got to be worried for Saturday.
I thought the coolest part about this past Saturday was in a game that senior day is always very emotional, and there are opportunities to come out and be a little bit sluggish because you have a lot of other things going on. You got a lot of other thoughts.
Right.
There's a delay in kickoff. There's a change of routines. And Ohio State didn't get bothered by that at all. And then we talked about it just before we started the show. Like the first play of the game was a false start on
open kickoff.
And then a false start.
Couldn't catch the ball because of the sun on a kickoff.
It was really bright out.
And then
it was very bright.
super bright.
Needed some of those November clouds.
And then a false start, and then your star running back nearly gets in a fight on the false start because the defensive lineman came in and intentionally antagonized him, trying to steal the ball from him. And Travion Henderson nearly threw a punch because the guy tried to take the ball from him. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're teaching ball security fairly well. And then
whatever the cost.
Because the thing is, all year long, Ryan Day has talked about we're killing ourselves. We're stopping ourselves. And then you see that first little glimpse of the game, and you're like, oh, boy, this could be a long one. And then they just went into God mode.
God mode.
Slingshot engage.
Mm-hmm. That was wild, and it leaves us a lot of players to potentially give some Buckeye leaves from Roosters, which this week it's mozzarella sticks.
Mozz sticks.
I assume most places will have them, but if they don't, I'm sure Nicole has a backup plan.
Yep, there's a backup plan.
Always backup.
It could be cheese fries. And if they're out of fries, I'm not quite sure what it'll be, but we will have
not
$2.
Cheese wedges.
We will have a $2 appetizer for you. There's a wedge shortage, so we'll
I'm
take
confused
that.
as to why they don't just reallocate some of the potato to the wedge.
It's unreal.
There's only so many things Nicole can
There's
do.
plenty of curlies, but why don't we just take some of the
flatten the curly?
No, I mean they have to cut the potatoes somewhere. Let's just
they don't come out that way.
Those
Grow them like that.
Yeah.
I thought they were
Have you never seen
curly,
a curly
curly
potato tree?
potatoes?
Let's just reallocate.
Burn, what are you doing up
Let's
in
just
Michigan?
reallocate
down
the
here in
potato.
Ohio.
Just reallocate.
That's a great idea, but otherwise, I think you're just going to be
We have
happy to
backup
get
potato.
Let's talk to the people about it.
mozzarella sticks. They are $2.
We have
They're
great
delicious.
vendors, you
Okay,
guys. They're
so-
working there. They are working so hard to get us everything we need. It just is a domino effect.
They're doing the best they can.
They are.
And you know who else is doing the best they can? Our commenters. Because last week they gave a lot of good insight about salsa.
I heard that.
So now I need to know, commenters, what is your preference when it comes to a French fry? Is it a steak fry, a
Ooh, I'd like to hear
shoestring,
this too.
a curly fry, a wedge? Bobby Carpenter wants your thoughts.
Well, what about just the potato? Because
Bobby's the only one up here that
wants,
doesn't eat French fries.
JC wants the Roosters chip.
No, I'm saying Bobby
Oh
doesn't.
yeah.
Because he doesn't know which one to choose.
Well, then you also have the chip.
Yeah.
The
You got
thick
the
and crispy
You
kettle
got the
chip.
loaded
Yeah.
potato skins as well.
No, there's so
Absolutely.
That's too much potato.
Ooh, I don't
many.
know.
The potato's so versatile. You know who else is versatile? Austin Ward when he talks about Buckeye leaves.
Yeah, that's great. What a smooth segue.
Thank you.
Nicole, you're first.
Wait, hold on. I want to get to this because
More
I
fries,
think-
yeah.
I
Sure
think-
enough.
well, not even outside of the fries. Ohio State's bowl eligible, correct? 10 wins.
Uh-huh.
Ooh.
Go on.
So that gets to 10.
So what happens?
And so I believe this is the final week.
No, we have 2. So I'm picking one today, and then I'm picking the
Well, yeah,
last
there's
winner
one
next
last
week.
one to be
Yeah.
able.
So-
One last
winner
week
for
to,
what?
One last week to enroll.
The Roosters Bowl trip giveaway.
Yes.
2
Tell them
tickets.
about it.
2 tickets.
Deluxe
accommodations, airfare, which looking now it could potentially be Dallas or Miami. Both fantastic. at
Both
this
are
time of year.
fantastic, regardless.
So you go to roosterswings.com and register, the official wing sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
How about that?
How would you decide how to take a second person? Like, who gets the nod?
That's a great question. I mean, you could have some sort of race, physical contest.
Ooh,
I mean,
I like
I've
that.
got one.
Feats of strength, of
Week
course.
Yes.
9 chose his brother.
Ooh,
Week
nice.
10 chose a friend who's actually going to be here and fly out with us and then fly back to Arizona. He's from Arizona. So
Nicole, I have a question for you.
yes,
If you were a winner and you had to choose one of us to go with you,
I would pick out of a hat.
It's the only
Very
fair way
simple.
to do it.
Very simple.
All right.
Yeah. I would have to, and I would have somebody else pick it so that you could.
So yeah,
Yeah.
See, she always has a plan.
Yeah.
You sprung that on her. She already
Yeah,
has
she
it.
already has
guys,
the answer. Yeah.
she's like the
Obviously.
queen of contingency.
She knows that you and I are going to be there anyway to
Ah,
go do
that's true.
a Letterman Live.
And Bobby is probably
I'm
flying on
so
the plane with the
excited for
team,
that.
pre-game speech or something.
no, we were trying to make
So it looks like it's me and you, Nicole. All right,
Jay-Z gets the trip.
by
We narrowed it
default,
down.
baby. All right.
Bring those chips.
those are real conversations now. Like you're sitting there planning. Okay, well they play Dallas and Miami. Who's going to win? I mean, are you going to choose to go to the game? It's December 31st. It's New Year's Eve. You've got that. You've got the potential Big Ten championship, which we'll know about. Saturday probably.
Do you have an idea of what date we will play on?
No, it's the 31st.
The 31st.
It'll for sure be the
Well,
30th.
New Year's
If they're in the playoff, it'll be New Year's Eve, yes.
Okay. I like
thought
to
they
know
got
that,
rid of
guys.
that.
that
Didn't they
that
get rid of the
really
New
helps
Year's
with-
Not yet. They're trending.
Only if it's Ohio State can they put it on there because that's the only way people will still watch.
That's right.
So then you think, so when will we have a definite answer on that?
After the Big Ten championship.
Yes.
Okay.
2 weeks.
It's coming.
we can.
Okay.
It's almost certainly going to be Dallas, but they do have to beat Michigan on Saturday. We're going to
do.
get to
Georgia
that.
has to beat Georgia has to beat Bama. I mean, who knows what could really happen?
Crazy things can happen. Berm already predicted Miami and told you to book it last week, but that
That's
was
right.
bad advice.
Yeah.
Buckeye leaves.
We don't know if that was bad advice or
It
not.
definitely was. Nicole,
So,
I have a guess of who you're going to pick.
Okay, so I was wondering if I could do a Buckeye leaf and a heart leaf.
Of course you can.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay.
Of course you can.
So Buckeye leaf is gonna go to my fave, Chris Olave.
that was
Just
gonna be the
And
heart
I
leaf.
thought that was the hard
Yeah, I
one.
know.
No,
I thought
no,
that's
no,
why she
no.
put that in there.
No, he's
gets both.
very well deserving of it. Obviously, I mean, he had 140 receiving yards. He broke the record, the touchdown record, 35 touchdowns. He just had a phenomenal game, and for Senior Day, that was it was awesome. So,
Except for that false start.
and hey,
He made up.
we don't need to talk about it.
Don't need to.
Don't need to talk
Wow.
about it. My heart leaf is going to go to Master Teague because my very first show that I did with you guys, I chose Master Teague, and the crowd, when he scored that touchdown, the crowd went crazy, and you could tell they were cheering for him. They were cheering for him because it was Senior Day, and he's had a little bit of a rough year, and so I just that moment, he really deserved it, and so I wanted him to have that heart leaf.
That's really a knife in the back for
I know.
Berm because he was going to try and make you cry.
I know. I
with
was gonna
Master
go. I was
Teague
gonna
today.
go Ronaldo-ish, but
You said you weren't.
I'm not picking Master. Teague.
Okay. So I had to do
love
two
it.
this week.
I love the heart leaf. I'm just going with a Buckeye leaf. And I'll give him a heart leaf, too. He's playing really, really well. After the Purdue game, I thought he was in total command, C.J. Stroud. And then coming into this week, it got better somehow, some way. The kid is just on top of things right now. He talked about a little bit of, we saw what we thought we were going to see. And, man, if you give a quarterback who's on this kind of, tear,
Yeah.
the same things that he's expecting to see when he's out there, forget about it. And I mean, that's impressive. More touchdowns than incompletions. I mean, that is Justin Fields-ish,
Yeah.
from last year where he was, 1 or 2 incompletions a game. So CJ's got it going at the right time of the year. All that beginning of the season stuff has kind of gone away. I've been seeing some of those forums online. You can apologize to CJ for wanting him benched in the early part of the year. If you want to fill those out and send them in.
Dig up the mean tweets.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe
No
we should
doubt.
do that.
There
mean
are
tweets.
there are a
there's,
few.
There's probably
You know
a few. So good on him, and hope he caps it off this Saturday.
And I love looking back at those things because I think that just shows it just makes him look that much better. So
It really does.
It's got to feel pretty good.
yeah.
Oh, it is, and that's great. I loved it. Rothman used to always dig up the mean tweets. It was so great.
Bobby, it felt like you had a few just not super positive comments back then.
That's a great point, Nicole.
I never called for him not to play. I never said any of those things. I said he needs to play better, and he is playing better now.
Much better.
I asked, he listened. That's the reality.
He
That's
does
why
watch-
he's giving the pregame speech on the plane.
You said the standard. The standard. He has to meet the
Yes,
standard.
meet the standard.
Exceed the
and he is
standard.
He is meeting and setting new standards now,
Yes.
which has been fantastic.
He
Like,
is.
if Justin doesn't ask about getting the chips back every week, they're never going to get back.
That is true.
It doesn't mean that he
I've
doesn't
talked
like
to the
it.
head boss about it, and I can't get him back.
That just means he wants to eat some chips. He wants to see him out there. There's nothing
We're
wrong
working
with
on it,
that.
guys. We're working on it.
And so another guy, I think, and we could go back, and probably there's a couple of them because kind of the whole position group was under assault early on in the season. And listen, they didn't play well against Oregon. They struggled a little bit against Minnesota. But started playing better, tightening up the rotation. I think asked him to do a little bit different things. Secondary played better behind him, with the linebacker group. And if I had to sit there and watch, and people sit here and tweet stuff at me, these pictures of where guys they think they're supposed to be going and what they think they're supposed to be doing. And for Tommy Eichenberg to lead the team in tackles when everyone's like, he played 80 snaps and didn't have a tackle in this game, like, all right. They threw the ball, whatever. They did this. They did there's times where
he's chasing from the middle of the field to get to the sidelines.
There's situations where you don't necessarily play. You may not have had your best game, but you didn't play bad. It's just there weren't any plays for you to make. And so to watch him lead the team in tackles, you've got him. Steel Chambers is playing well. Cody Simon. He's been a little nicked up. Hopefully he'll get back in there. But that whole position group in general, but in particular, I don't know why people were just all over Tommy. The guy hasn't played at all. Can we just wait? If he plays 6 or 8 games go by, you're like, man, he hasn't gotten any better. Okay. Well, then we can say he probably shouldn't be in there. We'll have to find someone else. Now Washington is playing him because he believes he's one of the better options. And to watch those guys go out there against the running back, and believe me, he went out, he was injured and everything like that, and the game got away from him a little bit. But there wasn't a whole lot to be had early on. It wasn't like he had 5 rushes for 36 yards and then got hurt and they pulled him out. There wasn't much there, and so those guys played really well. And in particular, Tommy Eichenberg, I'm just happy for him. So he gets my Buckeye leaf slapped on the back of the helmet.
There we go, Tommy Eichenberg.
I've got 2.
Oh, no, really?
Oh, here we go.
And one is a heart.
One's a heart leaf. And it is not for Master Teague. It is. I have been at times accused of being a touch critical of the Ohio State home crowd. Believe it or not.
That's actually true.
Mostly accused by Austin J. Ward.
That's correct.
However, on Saturday, not only were they very loud in the first half when it mattered, but the way that the crowd was cheering for Master Teague, a kid who is, 4th on the depth chart most of the year, and I just think it's really cool that they were imploring for Ryan Day to keep giving him the ball, not just after he scored, but before he got the ball to run it into the end zone for the final touchdown. I just thought that was really cool. It's not something we've generally seen at Ohio Stadium. It's not like a normal thing that they do.
Especially in a game like that, the students are usually gone.
People were talking to Spencer about it, comparing it to Rudy. I'm like, that's not the same thing. But they were chanting for Teague to get the touch. That doesn't usually happen because there's not a lot of opportunities for that at Ohio State.
Good on the crowd for that, especially final home game of the year. And secondary part of that heart leaf is that nobody stormed the field after the game, and I'm really happy that no one stormed the field after the game because there was no reason to in a 56-7 win, even if it's the last home game of the year. So thanks for saving me some time after the game. On the field, it's going to go to Haskell Garrett, because you guys know that the skull session is not supposed to be like a public thing, right? You know that. It's not supposed to be like broadcast. What you guys say in there isn't really supposed to turn into fodder.
Didn't Ohio State's Twitter send something out?
Well, there were media
somebody else?
members disseminating it.
Once it gets out,
in real time.
it gets out, you then need to sort of own it as the university. And Haskell Garrett in the skull session made a bold proclamation.
He did
heading into that game, and he said that they were going to whoop Michigan State's rear end, Bob,
It's senior day.
Senior day. And then he goes out, and the first play of the game defensively just knifes into the backfield, makes a huge stop, and I just think it set the tone for the entire day. And then after the game, when asked about it, he said, "I meant what I said."
Own it.
And
yes.
I just think that
put it on there.
I'm so glad he didn't. I'm so glad he didn't back off of it and be like, oh, I was an emotional moment. I didn't. I'm glad he said, hey, I meant what I said, and then they did it. So Haskell Garrett, for his entire career, has been sort of that spark plug, and I thought it was really cool that he was able to make that happen.
I wish you had just given your one, Leaf, so that I could have talked about Haskell Garrett.
Do you want to talk about Haskell Garrett?
No.
Cool.
I can't do any better than you did, Berm.
You're damn right.
So there's no sense of even trying. The other guys who got those last send-offs there, Munford, what a special day it was for him.
Mm-hmm.
Got to put on that I was worried about how long it would take the zero
Oh,
jersey
they
to
had
come
it set
off.
up. Kevin was over there. I was down on the side. I'm like, I'm like, why didn't they put? I'm like, oh, because they have it already dressed up, ready to slide. Those jerseys and pads are tight,
They're
folks.
very
Like,
hard to get
If
off.
you've ever seen, like, it's not something like, oh, it's like a basketball jersey. Just take it off.
You got
like,
guys
I
literally
that guy.
pulling at the end of the game.
I was kind of like, did they get a waiver so that he could wear it for one game? Like that'd be cool if that happened. But he got that off. He got to go meet with his family beforehand. Had a good game. I thought you knew that it was going the way they wanted, and I wrote about this on Saturday, like how much more fun Ohio State is having. And I know that that's hard to quantify, but if you draw an offsides penalty and your left guard starts jumping around in a circle and then throws that first down out there, you know you're having fun when you celebrate that. And I just have noticed that increasingly over the last few weeks that this team was really tight in September and things weren't right, and it looked like it was not fun to be at work and painful to get through it.
Everybody's saying that you suck all the time.
Yeah, and
That's not fun.
Well, but even
You lose a game,
even within
75,000 people show up for the next one.
even within it, when you know that you're not meeting the standard and your coaching staff is getting shuffled around the defensive side, September was hard for them. And Nicole has talked about the maturation
Because
process.
November is for contenders.
Well, they got ready for it, and they are embracing the moment of November. And you saw that with Chris Olave's celebrations out there, Thayer Munford out there, Cameron Brown, who ran over to me after the game and still talking about needing to get on the jugs. That's 2 weeks that he's let slip away, and maybe he's just saving it up for one that truly matters on Saturday. At least that's what I told him to make him feel better about it when he was beating himself up. It was hard to find a lot of things for them to really stress about in that game, and I think that you can really spread it around to that entire senior class for the way that they've helped lead things back. So that's a bit of a Schlegs.
It is, but especially some of those guys who are like Thayer who've battled injuries. Cam Brown, a torn Achilles. I mean, he looked so promising early on, and you battle through that, and to come back and to see
Then you pick up a knee injury, then you get a concussion.
Yeah. There's always something that those guys had to deal with, and so it's awesome. I always like going down there on senior day to get a chance because you get to know those guys, and you find out most of them are like really genuinely good people. Ohio State, as I said early on, they recruit probably too good of human beings. We need just a couple dudes or little
wild cards.
Couple wild cards in there. I mean, we had a couple. Maybe they got them out, and maybe there's still a few more. But just even DeMario down there, and to know all this stuff. He's been here forever. I like to see those guys' parents, and like to look at Master Teague's parents. You got a great son. He could very easily have just gone in the tank and I don't care and slip in the portal and all this stuff. I should be getting this. Look at what I did already. I mean, he's third team All Big Ten as a freshman. You have to remember that, as a backup.
Yeah.
As a backup, getting yards in the second half.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, okay, so things happen. Cam Brown, his parents, there's Thayer Munford, all of those guys, man, they're really good humans. They've worked their butt off to get to this point. And this is kind of the fruits of your labor this week, next week, and go get it now. Go get it. It's all here. You've been through all the hell. Get to this point now and enjoy it. And it looked like they were finally having fun.
Sounds to me like you guys had heart leaves too.
Well, we've all got some tickers in here, Berm. That's part of Lettermen Live.
Your hearts grew 3 sizes today.
You've really taught us things, and I appreciate it. And as Bobby said, you have to pay off all that hard work on Saturday because the rest of it can slip away. We're going to talk a lot about that in the second half of the show. But Nicole, she's been working on some numbers over there.
I have. I've changed it a few times.
Spencer said
There really are. There's
There are
6.5.
three or
It
7.
opened, and then it went up to 8.
Oh, is it up to 8?
People are not backing Michigan quite the way you might think.
You guys, I've lost my touch this year with the pick.
Okay.
There's just...
It's time to get it back.
It's not even fun to do it
November's for
because I just
contender.
keep... So, I don't know. I'm going to go 37-25. I'm not happy about it because I feel like that's a safer option.
Okay.
I wanted to pick 32-18, but then I'm
getting
indecisive.
creative there.
These numbers are
I
awesome.
love the creativity
Yes.
with the number combinations.
Yes.
She just doesn't want to go for any generic scores, and I appreciate that about her.
So I'm gonna just stick with 37-25.
37-25. That's an Ohio State victory, am I?
Obviously.
Okay, yeah,
Obviously.
Good. All right.
I agree with Berm. it's a nerve-wracking week.
Have you always been nervous for this one, or just now?
Just because he said something about it.
Just nervous in general.
Or did he talk you into it?
Did he talk you into the nervous?
No, but it's weird. It's the rivalry. It just brings so much more to the game itself, and it's a matter of how the guys will handle it. I have confidence in the guys after watching them the past 2 games. I feel like they are very confident going out onto the field no matter what the crowd is like and what pressure is on them. So I think that's good, but I just feel like you just never know what's going to happen here, even though I do think we're going to win. So
That's the part that gets me. And I have this conversation with Berm all the time. Like, you never know what's going to happen. We do know what's going to happen in the last 20 years. Like, there's not a rivalry between a hammer and a nail.
I was at the game, though, in 2016, was it? In the double overtime. I mean, that was
Nicole was
fun. And it was
said
it was
this.
just...
How did you even
It was
stay in the
intense.
stadium?
I was standing next to your brother in the stands.
that right?
Yeah, it was intense.
Passed out.
It was intense.
from the
Too many
suspense.
fizzies.
No,
sure those were
I
out.
was actually I was working, so I was completely sober. It was just intense, that game.
Yeah, it certainly was. We'll talk about that and some more when we get back. We're going to let Nicole go about her day. We appreciate her insight and her Buckeye leaves and for having us into the Lettermen Lounge.
Thanks for
Getting
having
ready,
me, guys.
the bowl trip giveaway. You got one more chance this week, and there's going to be an appetizer Tuesday. Just go to your local fun casual joint
$2.
and find out what it is. They'll let you know. They're very helpful. And then we're going to take a break right now. We're going to have a lot more coming on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun casual joint.
And now with some early bowl predictions, Bobby Carpenter.
Well, Austin, what I'm seeing here is 12 lucky Roosters guests are getting the opportunity to travel to this year's Buckeye Bowl game. Each trip comes complete with 2 tickets, airfare, and hotel. One prize winner will be chosen each week. Guests need to register weekly at roosterswings.com.
That's great, Bobby. What I was asking was your prediction for the Buckeyes this bowl season.
I have no idea. I'm going to Roosters right now to register.
Precision engineering. Rigorous attention to detail. A Bryant Evolution heating system is so well designed, it's as much of a joy to install as it is to use.
Good to go.
For the dealer nearest you, visit Bryant.com.
Welcome back in to Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. Getting set for the game Saturday noon in the Big House. You guys have experienced this week, everything that goes into it, and then obviously know all the time for war and stuff that goes on now over there to ramp it up. But, Tress set that, changed the course of this rivalry when you guys were around and helped swing the tide and make the last 2 decades dominant for Ohio State. I know Berm doesn't give that much credence compared to the 90s, but it seems pretty significant what you guys have helped do to reshape this rivalry, and this week is obviously going to be an emotional one for them.
How old are you, Berm?
43.
Do you have the speech Tress gave at the basketball game above your bed?
I don't.
No.
He has it on his phone, actually.
No, is it the background on his phone?
No, it's a video. He just watches it all the time.
It's just on repeat.
It was one of my brother's email signatures for 10 years.
And people are like, why? We've won like 20
Yeah,
games
exactly.
in a row. What is this?
Well, yeah, we're still proud of him.
But I'm just curious, 'cause you're 43, so the majority of your viewing life.
No, it's been split. I mean, it's been pretty split. I've been watching Ohio State since I was 4 years old.
Okay.
So.
Can you recall those 4 games?
Yeah. How old are you? 43.
43.
Really?
So still, 4 years old. That's only 39 years. So they've really been dominating for the last 20.
It's been pretty split.
At what point, like, how many more years of dominance do you need to see before you'll then feel comfortable?
I think I need to forget the 2003 game when you guys went to Ann Arbor and lost.
I did.
that's
I
the
would
one.
like to forget that game.
But no,
Mark D'Antonio
lost.
made us watch it like 17 times.
It's not a situation where,
Terrible.
I'm objectively aware Ohio State is the better team and should win this game, but they were objectively the better team over and over and over in the 1990s when they were the best teams in the country. Those were the best Ohio State teams. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Those are 3 or 4 of the best Ohio State teams in the history of Ohio State football that couldn't do what needed to be done. Obviously, there's a different side of things now mentally. You guys, helped make that change, but for the people who watched those games in the 90s, I'm telling you,
but
I'm not alone. I mean, I guarantee you there's a lot of people who feel the same way, that it doesn't matter. There's the old adage, throw out the scores, throw out the records. And And you can't do that, obviously, because those things are important. But
I don't know. Gary Bartis said it's not always important.
well, Gary
Games aside.
Bartis,
Beyond watching the game.
Games aside.
I think that it's just a situation where I like to feel nervous about it. Even even in 2009, Michigan was 3-8 heading into that game with their worst team ever, and I was still nervous. I was still nervous.
Come on, not about
I was still
that.
nervous.
That's the thing.
Were you nervous last week against Michigan State? Because they've actually beat us more impactful games in the last 20 years.
Let's be clear here. I am an objective professional at my job. All right, I do not make any claims to not be an Ohio State fan. I grew up.
But you live in Michigan.
I do live now 1 mile into Michigan. That's true.
I mean,
there's been one game this
like
year.
saying you're kind of racist.
There's been one game this year where I wasn't nervous on the morning of the game. What game was it?
Oregon.
That's terrible. So that's why. Okay, well,
So you
be
just-
nervous.
yeah, all right,
be
yeah,
nervous.
yeah.
Every other game,
gonna be a close one.
there comes a point in the morning leading up to a game where I find in my mind something that can go wrong to cost Ohio
Some
State
mornings
that game.
it takes longer than others.
So it's just the Oregon game was the one time this year I felt like there was no doubt in my mind.
Got a spotter in the house today.
Got it. Chives has given us a note for the show here.
Love it.
1981. Berm was 4 years old.
Okay.
Since that point,
I was born in 1978, October 1st, 1978.
No, but
so
since you were 4
I
years
was-
old.
I was not 4 in 1981 is my point.
3 then. Okay.
the note is
Since you're 3.
23-15-1 in favor of the Buckeyes.
Sure. But I mean, obviously the last
The last 20 years tell a
last 2
very
years,
different
the last
story.
2 years have skewed that. The last 20 years have skewed that quite a bit. So, but in my formative years, the years that actually matter to like what your psychology is,
From like 3 to 12.
from 3 to 24, was a disaster.
I was there, Berm. I watched those games too, and there was one year, and I wasn't even the biggest Ohio State fan, and I forget what it was. It may have been the '94 year. I think I definitely was locked in. '94, I was a little bit younger, and like, do you want to watch the game? Like, why? Michigan wins all the time anyway. Like, and that's kind of where it was. And then they won, ironically, in '94, and then I watched '95, '96,
The year after the greatest victory in Ohio State history, the 13-13 tie.
Oh, let's say it's my guy, Gordon. He's calling it as he sees it. I guess I understand why you're that way, and believe me, there's a certain level that I am too, where I don't ever want to
Well, you don't want to
eliminate-
take it for granted if you're Ohio
Yes.
State.
I can think that
It is a rivalry.
It is.
They do want to beat us.
They do, and I think now they've kind of leaned into it a little bit more this year because they tried pretending like it wasn't important.
So they've
didn't-
manufactured
that
it to
didn't
be
work.
important. So,
Yes, and
you
that
know, we'll see
didn't
how-
work. So you got to go back to the other side of it. And so I guess I'm curious as to how that'll affect it this year, if it'll be any different. I think there's definitely a talent disparity, and that's something where it's been that case in the past. I don't know if it's been this significant.
Yeah.
That it has the last couple of years. Not playing last year, I think that's going to amplify that a little bit for some of these Ohio State players, of maybe the feeling that they kind of ducked out on that one, and we had a really great team, wanted to play, wanted to win, get our 4th, 5th, whatever pair of gold pants. But just understanding, like you said, that knowing that it could happen. But I look at this, I mean, it's a little like Michigan State. You can kind of draw two schools of thought. If these things happen, if Michigan can run the ball, they can get pressure. They do. Aiden Hutchinson and
Ojabo, yeah.
They're good rushers.
What's interesting is that they line up on the same side of the field so much that it does overload that side. And obviously Ohio State, and this is where I don't mean to overtake the segment, but there's two things heading into this game. Two things heading into this game that I actually think bode very well for Ohio State is that they played at Nebraska, and that crowd at Nebraska was great.
Yeah,
great crowd. Ohio State this year, played at Minnesota, played at Rutgers. I'm glad that Nebraska game wasn't Illinois. You know what I mean? I think it was important for CJ Stroud to get that sort of environment on the road.
Get a strip sack with a minute and a half left.
Right. to get to get a chance to play in that environment on the road and figure out exactly how to handle that. Beyond that, I think that Ohio State had a little bit of a blueprint for Aiden Hutchinson with what happened with George Karlaftis. I think that they sort of have an idea of how they can avoid that. Avoid letting him be sort of the disruptor that he has. I mean, the guy's played great. He's played an incredible year. So I don't think Ohio State is going to be running away from him. I think that the plan is to go at him a little bit.
And I think that, to Jim Harbaugh's credit perhaps, or Michigan's credit, this team, that talent gap that you referenced, Bobby, I'm like, so far what I've seen this year, I think they actually have improved dramatically over the last couple of years. Like, you can see signs of improvement for them, and I didn't know that they would, because it certainly seemed like that program, that coaching staff had gotten stale, and it was the point of no return. But
they turn the coaching staff over every 2 years.
Well, you didn't know if Harbaugh was going to be there coming into this year, right?
I mean, it starts at the top. You know, the one that sets the culture and sets the tone. I thought that had been tuned out. There was no reason to keep him.
Well, we thought that because
it is
that
only if you're willing to beg
put
him
up
to
with
stay.
it. But I don't even know if the talent gap was that big. I think it was coaching, which is why I think they were talking about. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones is in the NFL doing good things. I mean, they have talent. They have guys that have went on to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think it's just more of the coaching, which is why I think we were talking about Harbaugh maybe not coming back or having a bunch of turnover on his staff.
Yeah. Harbaugh, in a way, reminds me of what this may be slightly unpopular, but Urban Meyer, towards the end of his time at Ohio State, his philosophies had become a little bit stale when it comes to offense. I mean, in Urban Meyer's light years ahead of Jim Harbaugh offensively. And Urban had to kind of give up the offense to Ryan Day to let Ryan.
No. Urban didn't give it up. Urban got suspended, then Ryan just started calling plays.
Oh, I'm going to be the head coach. I'm calling what I want.
Yeah, but then they worked.
Yeah,
watch this.
Yeah, and it works really well.
And I think Jim Harbaugh in the last couple of years has had this mentality where it's like when things get tight, it's going to be his offense, and he's going to run it his way. Mm-hmm. And he has allowed Josh Gaddis to do a little bit more this year and get a little bit more creative.
Speed and space.
Doing more speed and space. And I think that what's interesting to me is if Saturday comes into a tight situation, how much does Harbaugh?
How many tight ends?
Yeah.
Does
Because
bring on the field?
we saw it against Michigan State. The game got tight, and Harbaugh's offense took over again, and that's when I think that they get in real trouble. So that's what I'm always interested to watch.
I just think that if the talent gap was here, and I think that it was real, Jim Harbaugh could know. He could. Maybe it was here now. Like they're improved.
Yeah, fair, yeah.
But I'll ask you guys, because taking aside the emotional part out of it for Berm, when you look at this Michigan team on paper and what they've done this year, and you factor in the Michigan State loss and what they showed there, you know, I think Michigan is a fine team.
Fine team. They're going to be the 5th-ranked team in college football.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that is because of their name. You look at what the committee has done. What other
they're 9-1.
Signature accomplishment has Michigan had this year?
10-1.
10-1. Sorry.
I mean, I'm not I know how difficult it is to play in the Big Ten. I just what
They beat
what game
Washington.
did you
They beat Washington.
What game did you watch and you thought, wow, this is a really good Michigan?
I don't think you watch any of their games and think, wow, but I mean, I watched the Michigan State game. I thought they were better than Michigan State for most of that game.
Yeah.
You know, they were up, 17 points, played a little bit different. Michigan State got a fumble when they put the freshman in to hand the ball off. They don't, Michigan State took advantage of some of the bad things Michigan did, but for most of that game, I thought Michigan was the better team. So that's why when they ranked them ahead of it, everybody's like, oh, head-to-head. I'm like, well, I've watched the game. I felt the same way, in an instance.
I want the two of the things that I think have really helped them this year, I mean, game-wise, I didn't necessarily think that they would be able to throw the football very well. And at the beginning of the year, I mean, they would pass it like 11 times, like 14 times. I mean, ridiculous numbers.
Bringing them along slow.
The point, very slow, at a snail's pace.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, well, they can rush it for 300 yards. I'm like, yeah, you can do that now. But you're going to have to start to play teams where they're going to slow your rush down, and you're going to have to score. And then you saw that, Andrew Anthony explodes onto the scene. Now he's kind of backed off since then. And so I think that was important. Even at some losses, they developed a passing game. And then I do think, Penn State, Cade McNamara threw for 3 touchdown passes in that, and he had the game winner. Granted, it's just a drag, and they blew the coverage, and all turns and takes it down the sideline. But I've been impressed with Cade McNamara's development and growth. I think the running game, it kind of is what it is, and it's been there all year, and they've been good. But I think Cade McNamara has got to the point where I don't know if he can do that against Ohio State, but I think he can go. You can ask him to go win you a game.
No,
I don't want to live doing that, but I think you could have him
and
do
his
that
receivers. Some of the Michigan Maryland game this past week, his receivers made some nice catches.
Yes.
And he's putting the ball where only they can get it, and they're going out and make good plays for him. That's the type of game they're going to have on Saturday, where they're just perfect.
Athletically, they have a much better unit than Michigan State. I mean, the wide receivers are much more athletic. You mentioned Andrew Anthony, the freshman, but Roman Wilson, the other. They got guys that
losing
can
Ronnie Bell to start the season.
Losing Ronnie Bell hurt a lot, and that changed probably some of the philosophy early in the season to let some of these other guys come along. But I think the one area where, as a Buckeyes fan, you talk about linebackers, how much better they've gotten for Ohio State. They're going to be tested because Michigan loves to throw the tight end, and what they did this last weekend was really, really dial up stuff for the running backs in the passing game. And you saw Donovan Edwards, a true freshman, had 10 catches. I mean, 10 catches for.
Do you think Blake Corum's going to be back?
He played Saturday.
He plays Saturday, yeah.
But I mean, not a lot. I mean, do you think at what level do you think?
But I don't think that matters. I don't think the way that they run the ball is going to be the I mean, Ohio State doesn't. You don't run a ball against Ohio State very often and win. So you're going to need to find ways to get those guys the ball other way. Blake Corum on Michigan. Gosh, if you look back in history. How many Michigan-Ohio State games started with like a screen pass that went 80 yards for a touchdown? I mean,
oh yeah, that was a game that I was in. Now he came back and won it, but I mean, if you're specifically talking about,
but those are the types of things.
They did run a screen pass in 2004, running down the sideline. Jay-Z, you'd remember that being on offense, watching.
Those are the types of things that they do.
Like probably 50-yard game.
Those are the types of things that they're starting to do, and that's where you see Cade McNamara improving because he's not being put in positions where he has to win games by making great throws. It's just making sure you get the ball, and that's what Ohio State does. I mean, you get the ball to your playmakers and let them make plays. Michigan does have some playmakers.
I just wonder, for this week in particular, obviously that's what we're talking about, what's different for this Michigan team that can make it closer than what just happened, what Ohio State just did to Michigan State. I know that they've got two special edge rushers, and I can recognize that, but I don't see how that's truly going to be a problem for Ohio State with the best offensive line in the country and the ability for C.J. Stroud to make quick throws and get the ball out of his hands to three of the best wide receivers in the country. So that, to me, that seems like they'll neutralize that pretty easily. And the Michigan, I don't believe that their passing attack is good enough to take advantage of Ohio State in the secondary. And I don't think if the point is you have to take away the run that Michigan will be able to run in tough situations against Ohio State's front. So I'm not saying that it's going to be 49-0 at halftime by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're telling me that if you're telling me it's going to be close, I don't know why. Yeah. I can't see an advantage for them other than the fact that it's the first time for guys that are going into the rivalry and playing in the big house, and they haven't been if that's a big deal, the emotional mental part. All right, maybe you could convince me of that, but physically put it on the paper here. I just don't see it.
Well, going into last week, it was, hey, we haven't seen a running game this good since Oregon, right?
Right.
All right. Well, that went well for us. Now that's Michigan's thing. They can run the ball really well. Well, we just showed that we were able to stop that and put enough people in the box, get enough pressure off of our down four, whatever, that we can stop that. And I agree with you. They're not good enough in the passing game. They're not consistent enough in the passing game to just throw the ball 50 times and try and take advantage of our secondary. So I think.
Well, I don't think it's the secondary they take advantage of. That's what I'm saying. I think it's the linebackers.
Well, the linebackers on the tight ends, whatnot, but
I think got Ronnie Hickman.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Ronnie Hickman game, a Craig Young game. This is the type of game you're not going to see.
Craig.
They're gonna try to get in positions out there where Michigan sets up and run sets, and where you have Tommy Eichenberg out there and then pass out of it. That's where you're going to confuse. That's where Ohio State's vulnerable, in my opinion.
Okay. I like that. That's something that they haven't. No one's really done it against them, and so that'll be a great new test for these linebackers who I'm giving Buckeye leaves to today. So hopefully I'll be having another sleeve of them next week.
Well, that being said, Michigan has to score 40 points to win this game. So that's
they scored 40 yet this year. Did they get it last week?
Got it last week.
They scored 59. I mean, their offenses, they're like 33 points a game or something like that. They're not
bad.
It's not seventh in the Big Ten in passing, which might seem like it's more impressive than it is. To be throwing for 220 yards a game, that's not going to get it done.
We pulled up
old school offense.
I still went back and looked. I mean, there were times where I think Cade McNamara was throwing like 12 passes a game. I'm telling you, go back and look at some of those Washington early in the season, because it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
They just ran the ball
all over
They were completely opposed to even trying.
It would just be Corum. I mean, it'd be 3rd and 6. We're just going to run the ball. I'm like, okay. And they'd get it a lot of times. So I'm like, you know what? Kudos to you guys.
Jay-Z, this will be your only opportunity with us to make a prediction.
Ooh, that's right. Gosh. 37-25 was Nicole.
That's Nicole's, yep.
But not to be outdone. What was the other one? 32-20?
32-20 or 32-18 was the other prediction. She was going back and forth on those.
Well,
she gave a little more credit to both teams for that one.
Oh, gosh. In the spirit of Nicole's score, I'm probably going to go 43-22. 43-22. Hey,
You can't get these kinds.
I
of
think
score
that'd be a
predictions
I think that'd be a
telling you.
scoregami.
Scoregami. 43.
I'd have to check the Twitter account, but I
22.
think that's a scoregami.
All right. Well, we've got 2 of them on the record for the
Yes.
game on Saturday. Last opportunity this week to register for the Roosters Bowl Trip giveaway.
Roosterswings.com.
You can do that this week. You can come in tomorrow and get Appetizer Tuesdays. That's supposed to be mozzarella sticks. Probably will be. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yes,
out there.
happy
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
to you guys. It's been a really great regular season.
We're already at the end of it. Isn't that crazy?
It's
It's
both
the best. This is the best week of the year.
It
You're
is.
coming off a big win.
Get
You
to
got
stuff
Michigan
your
week
face on Thursday.
Michigan week, and then that's the start of the Christmas season.
Yeah.
Big Ten
You got
championship.
football
next week.
Thursday, Friday,
Oh.
Saturday, Sunday. You got
So-
Christmas coming up. It's awesome.
It's the best week.
Black Friday golf scramble for some of us
Ooh.
who aren't afraid of the cold.
Call it the Blackout Friday Golf Scramble.
You can insert whatever additional word you need in there,
There
especially
will be some
if
drink.
it is 33 degrees. There will definitely be a little bit extra. And then we'll head up, pick up Berm in Michigan, 1 mile across the border.
I'm just going to be
I
standing
see
there thumbing it.
The glare
gonna
from
be-
the
I'm
sweat
gonna
on
be-
his eyes over there.
I'm going to be thumbing it.
Well, that's the emotions of
The
the week,
emotions
JZ.
of the
They
week.
are starting to come
true.
out
His
already.
heart leaf.
He's getting ready for it. Again, happy Thanksgiving. It's been a great regular season of Letterman Live. Thanks to Roosters for having us. That's Nicole Cox over there, Jay-Z, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Enjoy your week. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the game. We will see you in the Letterman Lounge next Monday.